Hey everybody, and welcome back to the board meeting. Today we are going to be continuing our alphabet series, and today's letter is F. Now, E was a pretty hard letter to make. I had not played a ton of E games. We got it done though, and today we're doing F. F was a whole lot easier. I had a big giant plethora of games I could choose from for that one, for sure. A lot easier to make this one than for E. And yeah, I think I've got the lighting figured out now here in the basement. Let me know in the comments below if everything looks good, sounds good. But let's just jump into our list. But first, we will go to the honorable mentions as all the other letters we did before. So honorable mentions. We got Forgotten Waters, a big giant game with a lot of voice acting. It's very funny. It's a very good time sort of game. We've got Floriferous, which is a little tiny pencil first game. We got Fleet the Dice game, which is a roll and write game that I really enjoy. We've got For Northwood, a solo trick-taking game. It's a solo trick-taking game that actually works really, really well. And finally, we have Fluxx. All the different versions of Fluxx. Doctor Who Fluxx, Fantasy Fluxx, whatever. I'm kind of a sucker for Fluxx. I know a lot of people don't like Fluxx, but I think it's a fun little game that I can play. I like it playing it 2 players, especially I like playing it with my girlfriend. She likes those games as well. So yeah, I've just had a good time playing Fluxx over the last year or two. Now let's get into the actual top 10 list for this letter. And the first one is a game. The only reason I think it's 10 and not even lower is because I don't own the game and I haven't played it in a couple years. I want to play it some more though. I've only played it 3 times. This is Furnace. Now this is sort of this auction and engine building game. And it's really interesting how they infuse these mechanics of this game. In the first phase of this game, you're going to be auctioning for these different cards. Now, some of the auctions you don't even want to win. You have these tokens that you're going to be placing on these different cards for your bid. It's 1 through 4, the numbers are. And if you win the auction with the highest bid on that card, you get to end up taking that card. But if you lose that auction, which a lot of times you're going to try to purposely lose that, you're going to get an instant ability from that card, and you can get like resources. If you get like 2 steel from this card and you put like a 3 on there, you're going to get 2 of that resource 3 times. So like a lot of times you're losing those on purpose. After that, you're going to be triggering all the cards that you actually have in your little area, this engine building sort of system, trying to manipulate resources and turn them into points, basically. But I really like it, and I've only played it like 3 times. But this game could be higher if I owned it and got to play it more, but I haven't played it in a couple years since my friend was the one who owned it, and we played it a few times, but I really enjoyed my plays of it. So number 10 is Furnace. Going to number 9. Number 9 is a gateway style game, and it's really interesting that this particular list has a lot of easier games, sort of gateway, welcoming sort of feeling games. This is Forbidden Island, or you could put any of the Forbidden games in this. You know, there's 4 games in this series. It's Forbidden Island, Forbidden Desert, Forbidden Sky. You can cancel that one. Not very good. And then the latest one is Forbidden Jungle. I like all of them except for Forbidden Sky. They are relatively easy introductory cooperative games by Matt Leacock, the person who made the Pandemic series. So I like Forbidden Island. I think Forbidden Island and Forbidden Jungle are probably my favorites of the series. But they're very easy cooperative games. You each get different characters with different interesting abilities, and you're just moving around a map trying to complete your objectives while fighting off the board as it activates. It feels very much like it's like a Pandemic sort of game. You can definitely tell the consistencies between the Forbidden series and the Pandemic series. So number 9, or Forbidden Island, or any of the Forbidden games, really. Going to number 8. Number 8, I would say, is an introductory, welcoming worker placement game. This is Fallout Shelter, the board game, which is actually based on Fallout Shelter, an app that I played before I played the board game. And this is actually really well done. It's very, very simple, very straightforward. Each of you are building out this Fallout shelter from the video game series Fallout. but you're building out this fallout shelter together, but each of you control a different level of that shelter, and you're going to be expanding your area. That area is going to have worker placement spots that you're going to be going to and getting resources to spend those resources to get points, that sort of thing. But also in this game, there's going to be like little events that happen on your floors, like bad people coming, cockroaches, rad roaches, or whatever they're called in this game. And it becomes like a dice game where you place a person out there to try to kill off that bad thing that's happening, and you got to roll dice for that. But there's a lot of manipulating in this game for the dice. There's a lot of items that you can get that are going to improve your odds of defeating these bad things that are coming into the Fallout shelter. But a really good game, I would say if I was going to pick an introductory worker placement game, it would be either this one or Lords of Waterdeep. I think they're both really good. So number 8, Fallout Shelter, the board game. Going to number 7 now. Number 7 is, I'll just say it, this is First Rat. This is a worker movement sort of game where on your turn you're going to move either one of your rats up to 5 spaces, I believe, or up to 2 or 3 rats, a number of spaces less than 5. I think it's to 3 spaces, I'm not quite sure. It's been a minute since I played this game. But you're trying to move your workers, if you're moving multiple workers, onto the same type of spot. You're moving around this board, and you can't have your workers on the same spots, the same exact spot, but you're trying to have them end on the same type of spot and activate those same spots. You're getting resources, getting little items that you're going to be using to build this rocket ship, and you're going to be moving up on tracks for that. There's also other strategies that you can do. It's a pretty simple game as well. I would say this is close to introductory, maybe not. It's a little bit step above it, but it's still a pretty simple game. And it's just really fun. It's way funner than I was expecting this to be. I played this game, I bought this game, and I'm like, yeah, it's probably going to be okay. I end up really enjoying this one. So number 7 is First Rat. Going to number 6. Number 6 is also another easy game. This is a racing game. This is Flamme Rouge. You are racing bicycles in this, and you have a deck of cards for each of your 2 racers that you have. I think there's a roller and sprinter, I think they are. And each turn, you're going to be picking 2 of these cards from your hand of cards. And that's going to move that particular racer of yours that many spaces. This is really interesting because it's like you want to stay like right behind the person who's in first, because if you are in a group and you're the first person in that group, you are going to get these sort of fatigue cards that you have to put into your deck, and those are bad cards. So you want to stay like right behind whoever's in first, because you don't want those bad cards to get into your hand. But it's very, very simple. Just playing out cards with numbers, moving that number spaces. I would say this is definitely a gateway style game as well. So number 6 is Flamme Rouge. Going to number 5. Number 5 is a little tiny card game. It is an auction game. It's a classic game at this point. This is For Sale. For Sale has 2 separate phases in it. In the first phase, you are auctioning, bidding to try to take these estates. And the estates, I think, are numbered from like 1 to 30 or 3 to 30. I can't quite remember. And you're trying to get the best estates. If you have the highest bid, you take the best estate that's in that lineup. If you drop out of that, you're going to take the worst numbered estate in there. But you also get half of your money back when you drop out of these auctions. And after you've gone through the whole deck and given away all the estates for that, then you're going to go to where you're trying to sell off your estates now. And you're going to have a lineup of money cards in there, anywhere from like 0 to $15,000, I believe it is, or million, whatever the currency is. And you see the lineup of money. Then you're going to take your estate cards, and everybody's going to pick one of them and place it face down. You reveal it. Whoever has the highest estate gets the highest money. Whoever's got the lowest estate gets the lowest amount of money. And whoever gets the most amount of money at the end of the game wins. Another very, very simple game that I would say is a gateway style game, which is really interesting that this list just has so many like gateway style games. And I do enjoy gateway games for sure. Okay, so number 5, For Sale. Going to number 4 now. Number 4 is also another card game, actually, interesting enough. This is Fantasy Realms. Now, before I explain this, there is a couple different versions of this game My favorite version of this game, the retheme, redo of this game, is Marvel Remix, actually. But for Fantasy Realms, works the exact same as those other ones. But you are going to have a hand of cards, and at the start of the game, at the end of the game, you're probably going to have a hand of 7 cards. What you're trying to do is manipulate your hand to try to get the most amount of points. Each of these cards has a base amount of points that it's worth, but each of them have, most of them I should say, have points that you're going to either lose or gain depending on the other cards that are in your hand. So you're trying to manipulate your hand to get all your cards to work together in a good way to get you the most amount of points. On your turn, you're either going to draw a card from the deck blind or from the market area that is used for, that has been discarded. And after you get a card from your hand, you're going to have to choose one of the cards from your hand to discard into that open market player area for other players to have the option of taking that card. And it's just a really good, simple system. Like I said, I like the Marvel Remix version of it a little bit better because the scoring's not so atrocious, so high. In this game, you can score lots and lots of points, a few hundred points. Where Marvel Remix, you're going to end up getting around 100 points for it. So that's why I kind of like the Marvel Remix one a little bit better. But number 4 is Fantasy Realms. Going to number 3. Number 3 is a deck building game. It's a pretty simple, straightforward game. This is Fort. It is a very cute little theme where you have a deck and they're going to be children that are going to give you different resources. I think it's the resources are toys or pizza, I believe it is, and they're going to have different little abilities on them. You're trying to build up the best possible fort you can, and it's one of those games that does something that I really like, where whoever is taking their turn takes an action, and everybody else can play a card to follow that action. I love when games give you something to do when it's another person's turn, so you just don't sit around waiting for everybody. You're invested in what everybody else is doing to see if you want to use some cards to follow that particular action. So number 3 is Fort. Going to number 2. Number 2 is a solo-only game. This has got the horror theme on it. Very popular game. This is Final Girl, which I think the third year box was just on Kickstarter. This is a game where you play as the final girl in a horror movie. It's got the horror tropes on it, and you're facing different enemies that are, you're like Michael Myers and Freddy Krueger, but it's slightly different, the aliens from Alien. And it's a really good, solid solo game. It's one of those games that really gets me into the theme. This game is actually based on a different game called Hostage Negotiator that I wasn't a big fan of. But now in this one, you have a board that you're moving around as the final girl. And the theme, I think the theme helps it so much in this. Plus having that board to move around, where in Hostage Negotiator you didn't. But the killer is going to be moving around, killing the other different survivors that are in it. You're the final girl. You have a special ability. The killer has a special abilities, special moves that they're doing. Also, the locations are going to be interchangeable, and the locations are going to give you different effects for that. So there's a lot of variability just in this game itself. So number 2 is Final Girl. Going to number 1, my number 1 F game, and I immediately knew it was going to be this one when I saw that we're doing F today. And that's Five Tribes. This is a Mancala style game by Bruno Cathala, my favorite designer out there. And you are just picking up these different meeples. A bunch of the meeples have different colors. You're going to be picking up a group of these meeples and moving these meeples, dropping one off on each square, and then eventually landing on a square with your final meeple. You're going to do that meeples ability and that location that you're landed on's ability. You're also going to get different Jinn in this game that are going to give you awesome, cool special abilities to do each turn. And so there's a lot to think about each and every turn. It's one of those games that you just sit. It feels like chess. You're like, I'm going to do this, but I want to make sure I don't drop off this color meeple on this one, because that will give this next person a really powerful move. This is also one of the games, it says it's 2 to 4 players. I strictly play this as a 2-player game. I do not like it as a 3 or 4-player game. I feel it's too random. I like the back and forth of it for a chess style game with just 2 players. So my number 1 F game is Five Tribes by a considerable margin. I love this game a lot. So that will complete this F list. So make sure to comment down below some of your favorite F games. I know E was a lot tougher than this one, so give me some games that those are your favorite F games. Either way, if you did enjoy this video, make sure to like and subscribe to see more weekly content from me, Shane, at the board meeting in the future. Hope you all have an amazing day. Take care.